How is everybody doing? Welcome into the show. I am your host, EJ Savage, and this is Boys in the Zone. A lighter show tonight. I do have a guest coming in, a Steelers fan, a fellow GRYD Network contributor in Bryson Carver of Carving It Up podcast. So he'll be in here. He's finishing up another show right now. Let me adjust my mic a little bit. Anyways, Cowboys move to 2-2. We do beat the Giants. Dak Prescott with his 13th, if I remember that right, 13th straight victory against the New York Giants. Just absolutely sunning that team. I'm not exactly sure who the owner of the Giants is, but I'm pretty sure now it's Dak Prescott after that victory. He goes for 2 touchdowns, and let me get the official stats up over here. 2 touchdowns, 221 yards, 22 of 27 passing, absolutely electric. And once again, the route concepts haven't been where they need to be to really have those wide open receivers running, but Dak just threading the needles on a lot of those throws, doing well. Rico Dowdle, 11 carries, 46 yards. He was active, got that screen touchdown off the pass play from Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb heavily involved in that first half, 7 for 98 yards and 1 touchdown. Would like to see him getting a little bit more involved in the second half, but ebbs and flows of the game. Malik Neighbors, 12 receptions for 115 yards. Of course, you did not have any Kalen Carson on that Thursday night game, so you started Andrew Booth, who got burnt basically the first play of the game for the Giants, and then you eventually even went into your depth there, playing guys like Israel Mukwamu and his name is escaping me right now, but former 49ers player there as well, and so overall a good victory, but a win is a win, right? Do you feel good about it? Do you feel like this Cowboys team made you feel any better about starting 2-2? For me, it's a no. I think that this team goes as Dak Prescott goes. Mike McCarthy, you've got to figure out how to help your quarterback more each and every single game. It took till week 6 last year for you to really open up the offense and get going to the point of using those motions, using those shifts, using those RPOs and play actions more and more. The Cowboys have not been doing that this year, and as a result, they're not putting up a lot of points. I don't think that they've had a 3 touchdown performance for this offense all year, and that's far and few between these last few years, even running into the Kellen Moore offenses. So we got to get that figured out. Jeff Hollis says, "What's up, EJ? What's up, Jeff? Glad you could tune in." Here's the big thing. We've got to figure out what we're doing without Michael Parsons, without DeMarcus Lawrence. But, those things will come. They signed KJ Henry. So for all the Cowboys fans clamoring for the Joneses to sign a Henry, of course, it's not Derrick Henry. It's KJ Henry. There you go. But yeah, 2-2. Let's jump into a little bit more of the recapping of this game in particular. Time of possession. I want to bring this up because this is a big thing for I know coaches and players have mindful minds about this going into games. At one point, the Giants had held your offense off of the field for 9 minutes, and that was after you went back-to-back touchdowns in your only 2 touchdowns of the game. And why that's important is it because not only is your defense on the field for a really long time, but it gets your offense cold. It doesn't allow them to keep that rhythm going. You want to marry your defense and your offense with that time of possession, and ultimately you want to control it. Another big part of this game, 11 penalties for 89 yards for the Dallas Cowboys. It was flag happy early on in that game. It tempered down a little bit later in that game, but overall, man, got to get that figured out. I mean, this has been a problem since the running defense has been a problem, since getting a running game has been a problem. It's just, you got to figure it out. Now, the Cowboys actually outrushed an opponent for the first time this season, going for 80 yards compared to the Giants, who only had 26 yards. And Singletary has been really good this season, so that is heavily surprising. But it starts up with Mozzie Smith. I do want to shout out Mozzie because 88 percent grade on PFF, absolutely mauled down in the trenches. If that's the Mozzie you're going to get moving forward, I think that you have a legitimately good defensive tackle on the team. Linval Joseph, once again, looking bad. The linebackers, DeMarvion Overshown, flying to the ball. Tackling. Our tackling was once again bad, and I want to bring this up from a good buddy of mine, Defy Talks Cowboys. And let me pull this up really quickly. Whoops, I went to the wrong one. Sorry, guys. Last Thursday night, second straight game where the Cowboys missed 14 tackles. Your leading missed tackler on the team, Eric Kendricks, with 3. 3 missed tackles for Eric Kendricks. Trayvon Diggs, 2. Jordan Lewis, 2. Malik Hooker, 2. DeMarvion Overshown, 1. Wilson, 1, which I swore that Wilson missed 2, but beside the point. Osa Odigizua, 1. Carl Lawson, 1. DeMarcus Lawrence, 1. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. That, I mean, and especially you're facing a team in this next game, week 5, against a team that heavily runs the ball. You have to tackle, and you have to make sure that you're getting them in down and distances, because they're going to be starting Justin Fields again, and forcing him into playing within the pocket and making throws downfield is your recipe to win this next game. But you can't have that many missed tackles, and that's a big problem. So shout out Defy for bringing me that stat. Let's see what this comment is right here. Sports Junkie, what up, fam? We will be okay. Ever in panic mode, or never in panic mode is what he's trying to say. Just need to pump the brakes. Seen improvement in Giants game, but it's being overlooked because, well, it was the Giants. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty evident. The Giants are just, I mean, they're the little brothers for the Dallas Cowboys. Like I said at the top of the show, I think that Dak has won 13 straight against the Giants, which is, you know, that's just manhandling that team. I do want to bring up the NFC East standings because the Cowboys are not first. I actually thought that the Cardinals will battle the Commanders a little bit better, but it looks like the Commanders are actually leading 3, 1 game ahead, and they're going to 3-1. So with that, the Commanders, I don't think you play them for a few different weeks, but you need to close the gap on your offense, because I think your defenses are in the same kind of territory. Your offense has to be better if you're going to beat the Commanders. I think that they are really utilizing Jaden Daniels' legs, getting him in advantageous positions not to throw the ball a whole lot, and understand what he is as a player. I think that they're going to rely on Brian Robinson a lot with Eckler out, and Cliff Kingsbury, for all of the trash I talked on him in the preseason. He's got that offense humming, man, and we'll see. Obviously, the Eagles lost. They're without a lot of weapons, so we'll see whenever they get their weapons back. Their defense looks like burnt toast, so I think they're almost in the same boat as you in that regards, or in those regards. But yeah, it just comes to the point of who you play and who you have available. The Cowboys are now without Deron Bland, they're without DeMarcus Lawrence, and they're without Michael Parsons. So 3 Pro Bowlers are out right there on your defensive side, and your safeties haven't looked good. You desperately need to get depth at the D-line position as a whole. Edge, defensive tackle, you need to find probably another cornerback that can fill in there. I thought that Andrew Booth, for all of his good tackling, he can't cover a lick. You gotta get somebody out there that can. Bland probably is looking to be back around the bye week. We'll see. And Michael Parsons seems like he really wants to play this week. I don't anticipate that. I think he's going to set out 2 games, just as precaution, and we'll probably see him after the bye week. Jumping into the player of the game, 3rd week in a row, I have to give it up to Dak Prescott. I hate doing it this often. But truthfully, it's just I don't think that there's really anybody else you could have except for Dak Prescott with how efficient he was through the air. Made good decisions. His pocket presence has looked outstanding. Of course, he has to have a mindful awareness with Tyler Guyton giving up that much pressure. He needs helped out probably this next week against the Steelers, and we'll see if the Cowboys want to play a little bit more 12 personnel than accustomed to, which means two tight ends on the field, Luke Schoonmaker and Ferguson. But I anticipate that they will be helping out Tyler Guyton a little bit more often than not. But yeah, Dak, 22 of 27, like I said, 5 incompletions, 221 yards, the 2 touchdowns. I thought that he was good. And for all of the woes on offense to be that good is just a really good feeling, knowing that you have one of those upper echelon quarterbacks. And so, yeah, I definitely like seeing that from him. I did want to bring up one thing, though, with the Cowboys. Their motion rates. So they're actually, and let me go to my notes right down here. The motion rates right now, Cowboys are outside of the top 20 in regards to the RPO game, the play action rate, the bunch formation rate, and the motion rate. So bottom third of the league in those rates, and a lot of those are in the 24 and worse category. So you got to figure out some stuff with that. I'll bring up a clip that Clarence Hill brought up to Mike McCarthy a little bit later in the show, talking about what he plans to do to get the motion rates up and get that offense humming a little bit more. But I did want to bring up this. Through 4 weeks, the motion, first number is motion at the snap, second number is all motion. The Cowboys motion at the snap, 11.1. 11.1, that's 30th in the league. Only teams that are worse at that, the Jaguars and the Patriots. A combined 1-8 record between those two teams. So what it's telling me is you've got to figure that out. You're not going to win games through your defense like you have in years past whenever you were getting so many turnovers that you were getting the short yardage or the short field positions and just putting up points kind of by proxy in that regard. And then your offense is just so much better when you're utilizing your playmakers, putting them, in those bunch formations, making it look like something. And the bunch formations, what those do is, let's say you go trips right. It allows your wide receivers that aren't good at working up against, press man coverage. It allows them to get free releases. It allows them to get into their route quicker and faster. And you talk about a rhythm thrower of the football, that's Dak Prescott. So you got to figure out how to help out your quarterback a little bit more. Like I said, Dallas is bottom 3 in regards to motion rate right now. Definitely wanted to bring that up. And then also, that not only just helps your quarterback, that helps your wide receivers, as I mentioned, allows them to get going faster, allows them to have those, free releases, allows them to get better matchups and catch defenses off guard. But it also helps out your young offensive tackles because the linebackers can't always be playing up and attacking. They have to be mindful of what's happening. They have to think a little bit more cerebrally instead of just coming out and getting in your alignment, and that's all that you're doing. So, yeah, that helps everybody from the top down on your offense. And it's something that I'm going to continue to beat the drum on the Cowboys doing because it's such of importance, and that's what really took them to the next level, after that bye last year. Dalvin Cook, he dropped a star emoji and a prayer hands emoji 12 hours ago today. Cowboys might be activating him, pulling him up from practice squad for this next game against the Steelers. This game against the Steelers is going to be a grinded out game. I'm telling you right now, that defense is not going to give an inch unless they're forced to. You've got to be willing to be the bully against the Steelers. And I think you have to be willing, as Mike McCarthy, to go for it on fourth down more often than not. Because their offense, they're missing so many offensive linemen. Hopefully that helps your defense and missing some pieces as well. But their defense is so hard to drive against. You've got to be willing to take your shots when you can. So if you get in those fourth and short territories, you gotta go for it. So look for Dalvin Cook to come up from the practice squad as well. Let's bring up that clip of Mike McCarthy talking and bring this up full screen for us really quick.
And where you guys rank in that? Can you talk about why you're low in that category? That's an important part of your offense.
Yeah, I've seen the reports. We got a great analytics department. I think I've probably seen all the ones you saw and didn't throw out the ones that are good, because that's part of the equation too. But no, I think was really kind of part of what I was talking about earlier. You got to look at the situationals, particularly on offense, because some of our formation, I was talking to John Park about this yesterday, some of our formation tendencies, you got to factor in. I think we've been almost 3/4 of 2 minutes. So, that those are skewed a little bit. But yes, as far as the motions, how much motion we want to do, CD's utilization in motion. You also, I don't know, one of the things the analytics also shows is just the yardage that our receivers cover. Our guys are, and that's probably a product of, some of these 2 minute, the extra 2 minute, 2 minute offense that we've been in more than the norm for 4 games. So yeah, I've looked at all those things, clearly aware, the windows and, so I've seen the studies, but also I think our guys do a really good job of taking that data and then making sure all the filters are applied, so our information's accurate. And as Brian Schottenheimer and I will continue to visit on it, through today, and that's what tonight's for. And then as we start putting that plan together tomorrow, so those things have all been identified. But I think, just like anything, what you do inside the why is a big part of it. So yeah, we're clearly aware of our numbers in those areas.
And as offense, do you have to guard against trying to overcompensate for your defense, or is that what you have to do?
No, I think it's I think it's who you want to be, and right now we're not playing to the complementary football that we played last year and really the last 2 years. I felt like the complementary football really came into the formula. We were starting to hit it in 22 and clearly was evident in 23. And one of the biggest statistics, and I made a point of it again today in a team meeting, is our number of plays on the field for our defense from 22 to 23 went down. I think it was 9 plays. Or was it 50, 55? Or 6 plays a game. So that's a full game. So when you look at your overall stats in a year, if you're playing 6 plays less a game, that's a full game less for your defense on numbers. So that's where, you talk about third down. It's always a two-way street with me. When I see the defenses on the field, as long as they've been, I'm also very cognizant of what the production is on third down on the offense, because our time of possession, we're nowhere even close to where we were last year. That's a big negative for the first 4 games. Those are the things I spend time on, and clearly why are those numbers there, and that's what we're after, because not only do we want to score as many points as we can, but we do not mind going a long way, because there's a benefit to keeping our defense off the field. So much about time of possession is made on running the football. Time of possession is controlling the football, and you can do that in the passing game too. So that's where we're not. That's where after the first 4 weeks, our complementary football formula needs to be better. So that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, so Mike said a whole lot of stuff. I wanted that to play out because he kind of echoed a lot of what I was saying. I hadn't watched that clip all the way through just yet before, but he talked about the complementary football. I brought that up with the time of possession that the Giants had versus the Cowboys. I think that's evident that you need to have that balance. The problem is the Cowboys cannot run the ball to save their lives right now. And because you're not getting those positive plays in the passing game that really pushes back those safeties and pushes back those linebackers, I think that's the reason why you can't run the ball. So if I was an analytic guy, or if I was in Mike's ear somehow, I would be chirping to him. I'd be like, listen, the pass can open the run as well, not only the run opening up the pass. And understanding that is how you evolve as a football coach. I think that Mike McCarthy right now is calling a very archaic, very vanilla offense right now. And the understanding that, one, he's aware of it and hasn't changed it is questionable. at the best to me. I think that the players need to do a better job of getting in his ear and telling him, look, we understand this is your system. We understand this is how you want to do things, but our offense from now and last year is night and day. And the only real difference is we lost Tyron Smith, and I would probably say upgraded from Tolbert to Gal or from Gallup to Tolbert. You've got to find a way to get Cooks involved. And personally, I think that with what the Cowboys are doing right now on offense, you're asking Dak to save you down after down after down, getting you in those third and long positions. I know you want to have that time of possession, Mike. I'm right there with you, but you've got to be in lockstep with understanding the motion, the creativity to your offense goes a long way with allowing you to help run the ball and run it effectively moving forward. So that's a big thing. For me, I think that kudos for Clarence Hill for asking that question. Seems like Mike is always kind of shoddy at other people asking questions that he kind of doesn't want to be questioned on. So shout out to that. Sports Junkie right here says it's about time they bring up Cook. Damn. Didn't know that they were waiting on, or did not know what they were waiting on. Also, do you see us going after another wideout? Yeah, I definitely do have a discussion about Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Michael Thomas. Maybe we'll see a little bit down the line. Bryson Carver is in here. If he's ready to go, he can give me a thumbs up. We'll bring him in. Always glad to have you, Bryson. I actually kind of like this angle better. Firstly, thank you for hosting the 8 o'clock spot. If you guys have not already checked out the GRYD only shows, please do. Go over to the GRYD Network YouTube page, the Twitter, all that stuff. It should be streamed through actually Twitter isn't, because we don't have the Twitter blue on there anymore. However, on YouTube, every single week, Tuesday at 8 Eastern time. Fun show. If you like game shows, if you like sports, combine the both of them and have a good show. So how are you doing tonight, Bryson?
I'm doing well, man. I feel like I just saw you like 5 minutes ago on the 8 o'clock spot. Appreciate you coming in and doing a really good job tonight. But yeah, listen, I'm excited to be on. And listen, Steelers Cowboys week. This is a really, really big game for both teams this early in the season. So very excited to discuss it and to watch it on Sunday.
Absolutely. Bryson, did you get to catch the Giants versus Dallas game?
Yes, I did. Giants on Thursday night. Yes.
Yep. What were your thoughts with the Cowboys right now, where they are as a defense moving in a direction without Micah Parsons, without DeMarcus Lawrence now after the injuries, and they already have lost Deron Bland? He should be coming back maybe after the bye. What is your thoughts on this defense moving forward? Do you expect them to make moves? They signed Henry, which is off the Bengals practice squad. It's just kind of a lowly edge rusher, just a body guy. But do you think that they should make a move for a legit piece? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they should. We obviously know that the middle of their run defense and the middle of the defense in general isn't very good. We understand they don't have a ton of depth at linebacker. Listen, the loss of DeMarcus Lawrence is going to hurt. This is a guy who's been kind of the Iron Man of that Dallas Cowboys defensive line for over a decade now. So probably one of the best. I mean, you would know better, but probably one of their better run stoppers. Micah Parsons. Yeah, I mean, Micah Parsons tends to kind of struggle in that regard. But listen, this is going to be a situation against a Steelers team where, listen, we know Najee Harris can run the football. There's some injuries to Jalen Warren, so we'll see if that's ironed out. Justin Fields, Cordero Patterson. So the Steelers have a lot of different options of what they can do in terms of running the football. So whether Dallas will be able to stop it with DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons, I mean, they weren't able to stop the Saints or the Baltimore Ravens when those guys were in the lineup. And so, but if there's one saving grace, it's that the Giants came in, they wanted to run the football against a Cowboys defense that had struggled. And Dallas, again, it's the Giants. It's not Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, but did a really good job. I think they might have held them to under like 2 yards a carry. So if that continues, then that's going to be a really good sign for Dallas. But without their top two guys in that line, it's going to be really, really tough in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, like I mentioned this at the top of the show, held Singletary to 26 yards, and Daniel Jones is no slouch when it comes to the running game as well. So I think that they did a really good job on them. Of course, Malik Neighbors and Wando Robinson balled out, but despite that, you were already down two corners, obviously not having Bland, then Kalen Carson, the rookie. I thought you played good. Now, I personally, just watching that game on Thursday night, I I could have saw a 40-point blowout. Honest to God, I think that the Cowboys played it safe. They played it really vanilla on offense, and that's what kind of what they've been doing these first 4 weeks. And so I have a call to Mike McCarthy to open up this offense a little bit more, maybe make a move for a wide receiver here, before trade deadline, which Sports Junkie brought up, and we'll get a little bit into a little bit later. But man, I just this offense seems so archaic, so just 90s. And we want to see that pre-snap motion. We want to see that Shanahan tree kind of esque offense. And as an outsider, not a fan of this team, what do you think is the problem? As far as, is it Mike? Is it Dak checking into these calls? What do you see as an outsider?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think you hit on a great point in terms of the lack of motion that Dallas runs offensively. Again, Mike McCarthy was the same story in Green Bay. But listen, I think, and I've been on this certainly to a certain degree since 2022 and definitely this year, is that if you take CeeDee Lamb, if God forbid, knock on wood, if he were to go down at any point this season, I think it's one of the worst receiving corps in the National Football League. I really think that. NFL Pro just recently came out with a stat on the level of separation that Cowboys receivers are getting, and it's jarring. Week 1, Dallas ranked 19th in separation. Week 2, 21st. Week 3, dead last in the NFL, and then last week against the Giants, 27th. So there's, again, it's a combination of the two things. There's got to be a level of scheming to get those guys open and out in space. I mean, again, I talked about, I briefly brought up on the 8 o'clock spot, which you were on, that, San Francisco missing a bunch of their guys were able to free up guys like Jawan Jennings, Jordan Mason going in the run game, despite a below average O-line, despite some of the limitations they had with so many guys out. So, and you hit up, talking about the Shanahan tree. I mean, that's what's given Dallas problems, whether it be Kyle Shanahan himself, whether it be LaFleur, whether it was Clint Kubiak with the New Orleans Saints. Like it's really hurt them. I know that's more of a conversation about Dallas's defense, but it does go to show that there's not been a level of evolution to what the NFL is today in terms of running the football, getting guys out in space, being able to utilize motion. And for the limitations Dallas has at wide receiver, better coaching and a better scheme would certainly help them in that regard. But more than anything, I just don't think they have the personnel in order to be able to give Dak different opportunities, on Sunday, other than CeeDee Lamb, who's phenomenal.
Yeah. And Jeff says they've definitely regressed since last year. It's like they forgot how to play offense. I watched the Lions-Seahawks game last night, and it was abundantly clear how good an offensive coordinator can make regular players look.
Ben Johnson's brilliant.
Exactly. Tim Patrick ran booty butt naked on a few plays because of that Lions offense. David Montgomery, just absolute monster in the run game. Jahmyr Gibbs, they have the weapons, but they get everybody involved. It's not just, you can't just as a defense focus on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oh, Jahmyr Gibbs. You can't just focus on, one player. You have to be willing to guard and cover all of their weapons, also stopping the run. They've just, and I know it's an abundance of riches there, but also you have to give so much credit to Ben Johnson for creative play calling. Jared Goff caught a touchdown pass last night. Where is the creativity from this Dallas offense? It seems like first down, run, pin it down as a run. It's almost 90% chance that they run it on first down.
It's
that
extremely
puts you into the second and longs, which you're asking Dak to bail you out every single time. And if Dak isn't good, I don't think this team can win. I'm at that point. So what do you see? Do you see this team getting it going like they did last year? Or do you think that this is just Mike McCarthy's set out to fail and we're going to have a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator heading into 2025?
To be honest, I tend to be more pessimistic, but at the same time, a year ago, I had these same questions with Dallas, and they were the number one offensive football, and CeeDee Lamb had a career year. Dak Prescott nearly won league MVP. It's mostly the same guys, offensively in terms of, basically just minus Michael Gallup and, insert a couple of no-name guys here or there. But listen, if you remember a year ago, they exploded against the Giants. That was more of a defense and special teams type of performance. Play well against the Jets, struggle against the Cardinals, and then blow out New England before the debacle in San Francisco. And then that game against the Chargers, you saw them getting CeeDee Lamb more involved, and that kind of set the tone for what the rest of the regular season was going to be. Folks have concerns about the running game. I'm right there with you. I mean, is Tony Pollard exactly lighting it up in Tennessee? I mean, it's like I didn't think that was as big of a loss as some folks made it out to be. But listen, you're seeing some similarities now, to what we saw a year ago, although I would argue I thought they played pretty well offensively against a good Jets defense last year. So whatever it is, I mean, again, mostly the same coaching staff, the same personnel, in terms of now you have some different offensive linemen at left guard, at left tackle and at center, but I don't really know what the issue is. I don't know if it's just trying to iron out the kinks. I don't know if it's just as simple as, hey, CeeDee Lamb held out for a contract, so the timing's not necessarily there with him and the other guys with Dak. But, I mean, I'm with you. I think it is if Dak and CeeDee do not have it going, look at the Green Bay Packers playoff game. This team is extremely one-dimensional, and I think more than anything, that's what's going to hold them back from really doing anything special in January and beyond.
Yeah, and it's come a habit where the Cowboys will bring in these. I mean, Kellen Moore, I guess, but he was also, a darling boy of Jerry Jones because he played here in Dallas. But other than that, the Cowboys just hire these old, crusty coaches. You think to all of our most valuable, coaching jobs, Mike McCarthy there at the head coach, Mike Zimmer at defensive coordinator, your offensive line coach, Mike Solari, he coached with Tom Landry. So let's just put that out there. Like, you've got to get innovative with what you're doing as an offense. I don't think that they are right now, and that's what's going to push this next conversation and next topic, which is adding a receiver. Three guys up there. Davante Adams, obviously, he has a massive contract on the back end. You could afford him this year. Amari Cooper, very, very easy to probably nab from the Browns just because of how their season has gone. And it seems like Watson is just not worked out there. And then Michael Thomas, just a guy that you could pick up off the street. What is the most likely move from the Cowboys, if any of these? And what would you want them to do if you were a Cowboys fan here?
Well, first of all, again, I hate to sound like a pessimist. I'm not 100% certain anything is going to happen because as Stephen and Jerry Jones recently, or I think it was Stephen Jones actually was talking about, hey, we like the guys we have. Doesn't that seem to be a very familiar refrain, Dallas? We like the guys we have. So listen, Amari Cooper is the one that makes the most sense just in terms of obviously we know his history with Dak. They had a really, really good rapport between 2018 and 2021. I do think he's going to get traded. We know that I think he had liked some Instagram posts potentially linking him to the San Francisco 49ers in a potential Brandon Ayuk trade before that contract got done. That would make sense. Obviously, teaming up with CeeDee Lamb would do wonders for this offense. Listen, Davante Adams would be great. I think Dallas could potentially package a nice deal full of draft picks. I think Adam Schefter said that they would like the biggest component of that deal would be a second round pick. Well, if Dallas has a successful season and they're able to win the division or at leleast be a playoff team, that's a late second rounder. So that doesn't have as much weight as, say, like a Patriots second rounder would, which is basically like a late first rounder. So listen, Davante Adams works. He's basically a better version of Amari Cooper. He has a big time catch radius, route running, all of those things. If I had to guess, I would say if a trade goes down at all, which I'm not sure happens, I think Amari Cooper probably, maybe gets dealt back to Dallas. But, for Davante Adams, listen, we know Jerry has been, let's call it reluctant when it comes to bringing in guys in free agency and in the trade market. With Amari Cooper being the lone exception, maybe this history repeats itself in that regard. But I'd say Amari Cooper is the most likely. But to answer your second question, I'd want Davante Adams the most. I think he's at his peak. Yeah. He can be a top 5 receiver in the game. So if I were a Cowboys fan, I'd want Davante Adams. Amari Cooper probably seems like the more likely option.
Yeah, and I do want to bring up Adams because his salary cap right now is 16.8. It's obviously not quite that much because he's played 4 games. That's doable for the Cowboys right now. After that, though, he's on the books for $35 million and then $36 the next 2 years. He's going to be 32 in December. An older player, obviously, he would help your team immensely moving forward. If you did make that trade, you would have to almost. There's just no world in which you make this trade and the Raiders don't eat some of that salary cap. But man, talking about that, and CeeDee Lamb's went on the record saying like this dude's one of his idols as far as wide receivers. So pairing those two up, you can utilize Brandon Cooks more in the slot where he probably should be more often than not. It's a match made in heaven, I think, for this offense, just getting stuff going. And then also for Davante Adams, he's not afraid to get in the coach's ear and tell them like, yo, this is stupid. We need to be doing this.
Well, and also he has a history with McCarthy though, too.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I think that the most that I would want is Davante Adams. Likelihood of that happening, I'll peg at like 0.5%. Amari Cooper seems like he had some past with not wanting to get the vaccine when Jerry Jones wanted him to get the vaccine. Heard some rumblings about him quitting on the Cowboys during that 49ers loss in the playoffs. I don't know if they would do that, but man, he would help so much. Another big body on the outside, and he can play that X position where it allows you to utilize CeeDee Lamb in the manner that really catapults him into that top 3 territory, moving him outside in a lot more and working outside of that slot if you got Cooper. Yeah, it just comes down to the money, and it comes down to the willingness of the Joneses to swallow their pride and understand this team isn't good enough to make an actual run. And despite even if they make the playoffs, they're just not good enough. And I think that's real for me to say as a Cowboys fan, but I'm interested in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to ask you a question. Do you think it's more likely that Dallas makes a move for like a linebacker or a wide receiver? Do you think, because obviously those represent two of their biggest needs. What do you think feels more feasible for the Jones family to make that move?
Yeah, I think they're good at linebacker right now. They've got Kendrick. They got Overshown, who's been playing really good. Damone Clark's another young guy. You work in Maurice Luafau as well, your rookie draft pick. So I think they're good at linebacker. The two moves that I would peg to really catapult you as an offense is wide receiver, of course. That's my number one. But going out there and getting a legitimate defensive tackle that can stop the run, that's my biggest issue, because I think that Micah is actually going to be back sooner than expected.
So do I.
This is the first time he's probably going to miss a game in his career. So he's a freak of nature. I would not be surprised if he's back after 2 weeks or after the bye, only missing 2 games. Now with D-Law, he has that Liz Frank injury, which I know personally can set you out an entire season. Now they're pretty optimistic with it. Seems like 4 to 6 weeks is what they're saying, 4 to 8 maybe. That literally could sideline him the remainder of the season. So we'll see with what happens with him. He got put on IR. Micah did not. So I think that's a little bit telling. But yeah, I think that you can make it through these next couple games without Micah. And then, hopefully Nealon's ready to play in that D-Law role that he was kind of pegged to as getting drafted as his kind of heir apparent, replacement. So.
Yep. No, for sure. And I think too, like, you mentioned Amari Cooper earlier though, and obviously some of the disconnect between he and the football team, maybe he and Jerry Jones. I mean, that's, that obviously, that I hate to bring up bad memories, but that bad loss to Philadelphia back in 2019, which knocked Dallas out of playoff contention, Amari Cooper, got benched by Jason Garrett, right? I mean, there was the body language was bad, and there's been instances where that's been the case. So that is a concern, but given the spot where Dallas is in now, if they had a legit number 2, maybe I'd be a little bit more hesitant about bringing him back in. But, as dire straits as this Cowboys team is in, if again, biggest knock on whatever, if CeeDee Lamb goes down, it goes to being one of the worst offenses in football, and Dak's got nothing to work with. I mean, I like I said, I just gave the stats earlier, like a mixture of lack of creativity and lack of depth at receiver. Cowboys receivers just flat out do not separate. So that's gonna be something to keep your eye on. But I'm with you. If push comes to shove, I'd make the deal for Amari Cooper.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
If you can't get Devontae Adams, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Adams would be. I
actually
might have to forgive Jerry Jones. There's no forgiving Mike McCarthy for how this offense has started, though, knowing how night and day different it was from last year before the bye and then after the bye. You saw what worked, and to backtrack on that on purpose is just inexcusable for Mike McCarthy, in my opinion. Now, I know that you're a Steelers fan, but we're going to be talking about how the Cowboys can make a run and get over, this 2-2 500 record. So jumping into making a run against the Steelers. Heading to Pittsburgh against the Steelers. I think the last time that Dak Prescott actually played the Steelers because he was injured was 2016. That injury year was the other year that they would have played. So that was such a good game, and both of those teams were strong teams that year. So first, I want to hear from your perspective what you're looking for as your team going, facing the Cowboys. What do you want your team to do to beat us?
So what I've seen from Arthur Smith the first 4 weeks of the season is a level of, like, you see him slowly kind of taking the training wheels off Justin Fields' bike. Right, in week one, it's very much, he works a ton out of the play action, running the football. Wait, listen, Kirk Cousins' first game as a Falcon, just don't make any mistakes. Kirk will maybe give us a ball here or there, which he did, and we're just going to ride our defense to a victory in Atlanta. And then week two, kind of a similar situation against a young Bo Nix Broncos team. You saw it a little bit in the fourth quarter in week 3 against the Chargers, and you definitely saw it in a spot where the Steelers were down 17-0. And I'll tell you, EJ, and you know as well as anybody that, down 17-0, if in that situation for the Steelers last year with friggin' Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator, or Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph at quarterback, that game's a rout. I mean, there were multiple spots, like against the Colts or against the Texans last year.
Yeah.
That'd have been a blowout game because you don't have the creativity, and you darn sure don't have the playmaker at the quarterback position. I've been a Justin Fields skeptic. I was blown away with his efficiency throwing the football. We know what he can do with his legs. And you saw listen, it's a spot where the Colts know you're throwing. You're trying to get yourself back in the game. And just the decision-making was great. It was really just a bad snap on that last drive that kind of cost Pittsburgh. But I think you're going to see that more, that sort of maturation process from Fields, and that the trust, therefore from Arthur Smith against Dallas. And like you said, against a beat-up defense, against a secondary that's missing Deron Bland. We know, obviously, moved on from Stephon Gilmore prior to the season, which I wasn't, crazy about. So, listen, I think more than anything, this feels like a Justin Fields kind of do-it-all game. Najee Harris dealing with injuries. The Steelers' backfield is kind of beat up, so expect to see, a lot of Cordell Patterson. So, I have no doubts that Pittsburgh's going to bounce back defensively. I think the TJ Watt and Guyton matchup could be quite one-sided, let's call it. He did a good job, I thought, actually, against Myles Garrett in week 1, but TJ Watt, just in terms of speed and just overall just motor, is going to find ways to make life hard for Dak Prescott, and I love the Steelers, back into their defense as well. So to me, the story is going to be, is Arthur Smith going to continue to trust Justin Fields to make big plays? And I think that's what we're going to see on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, so Arthur Smith leading the league in rushing attempts, being the offensive coordinator, coming over from the Falcons, where he had, the dual backfield with Bijan and I can't remember
Tyler
his name
Algier.
right now. Algier, thank you. Right now, actually, Fields is 4th in attempts for rushing at the quarterback position, including scrambles, of course. So they're going to lean on him to have the bulk of those carries. Thing with you guys right now is it seems like you're pretty beat up as well on the injury side of things, with the offensive line especially. Looks like Highsmith might be out for this game as well.
Yep.
Nick Herbig, Keanu Benton, possibles, Jalen Warren, Cordy P. It seems like almost all of your running backs are a little nicked up right now, which bodes well for the Cowboys. We'll see. Of course, they haven't been good at stopping the run, so even if you're taking somebody off the streets, you probably have a good chance of getting some carry, some positive plays against the Cowboys. But your defense is very good, probably the best in the league right now. The thing with the Cowboys, and I think that last game, the Colts really kind of showed a little bit of a blueprint in how you can attack the middle of the field against your defense. I think with the Cowboys, it's kind of like a give and take. Do I want to send Ferguson, who's really good over the middle of the field, out on routes, or do I want him to help chip TJ Watt? That's where it comes down to, because you've got to give help on Guyton. I just think that if the Giants pass rush was giving him fits, this Steelers pass rush is going to give him way more fits, and you got TJ Watt. Of course, Highsmith being out helps. But you've got a plethora of pass rushers over there, and it's not boding well for this offensive line that already gives up pressures. And I know that the numbers kind of say that we're a little bit better than what I think. But overall, man, this is a tough defense. You've got to figure out how to move the ball and at least get into field goal range, because I think that this is going to be a low-scoring affair. We have one of the best kickers in the league. Just get us field goals, get a touchdown here or there. I think we have a good chance of winning this game. Now, you're going into a hostile environment in Pittsburgh. You guys are 3-1. Of course, you played some lower teams. You kind of got surprised. I was actually anticipating a 4-0 Pittsburgh team playing us this week.
Yeah, I did think we beat Indianapolis, yes.
But regardless, and I was almost betting on that. Like, okay, if they're 4-0, I'm going to take the Cowboys. Now I'm kind of like, dang.
Mike Tomlin off a loss, yeah.
But it's one of those things. You guys are good on defense, not so good on offense. Cowboys are good on offense. Well, not so much this year, but better on offense, terrible at defense, it seems. So it's that give and take game. Who can score the points first? Who can make this a grinded out game? And I think that whoever's the bully of this game is going to come out victorious.
Listen, though, if it comes down to that, if it comes down to who can just be out physical the other, I think that just leans right into Pittsburgh, what Pittsburgh wants to do. You mentioned earlier with Jake Ferguson what you want to do. If it were, it's kind of it's a pick your poison type of situation, because Patrick Queen, who I love that free agent pickup from the Ravens during the offseason, but he kind of struggled a little bit in coverage over the middle of the field throughout the course of this game. So I think you're in a spot where Ferguson could get some targets. This could be very much a Jake Ferguson game. I could see a spot where this is you're putting Minkah Fitzpatrick on the same side of the field as CeeDee Lamb every time, with Joey Porter Jr. obviously defending him, but. This is feels like Jake Ferguson is kind of the X factor for Dallas's offense, because I don't believe they'll get a whole lot of help from the run game, be it Dowdle, Zeke, anybody, Deuce Vaughn. Nick Herbig, I think, is going to play. I'd be shocked if he didn't, obviously, along with TJ Watt. But listen, the one advantage I think Dallas does have, and it's it may sound kind of cliche, but they do have 3 extra days to prepare, right? So there's again, obviously getting ahead of the game, getting some extra film, on the Steelers with Sunday as well. So again, but if it goes to your point about who can just out physical the other, I think that plays right into Pittsburgh's hands. And you mentioned Brandon Aubrey, who's been unbelievable. I was a little bit ticked off with him that he missed that last field goal and didn't get that cover. That was 50 yards a chip shot for Aubrey. I mean, come on. Chris Boswell's no slouch though. I mean, Chris Boswell's 6 for 6.
Yeah, he's a solid kicker as well. He's probably my top 6-ish.
Oh, for sure. A solid kicker, 6 for 6 against the Falcons. But yeah, I think there are matchups that bode pretty well for the Steelers. But again, Jake Ferguson to me is kind of the X factor for Dallas in this spot.
How concerned are you with your offensive line right now? I know that you've got, I think it's 3 offensive linemen out, maybe 4. Talk about that a little bit. And if you think that the young guys that are going to be playing for the Cowboys can kind of get some pass rush, kind of, allow or force Fields to stay in that pocket and make throws downfield instead of getting out.
The good news is, to start to your last one and then work back, Fields thus far has shown that he can make those throws. He is completing 70% of his passes. He did throw, over 30 times the last couple of weeks. So I believe he threw over 30 times against the Colts. But, listen, the level of efficiency from Fields, I'm not worried about. The problem with the Steelers offensive line is not just injuries, but penalties. There was a play in week 2 against the Denver Broncos where Justin Fields is rolling out to his right and hits George Pickens on his beautiful deep ball as you could throw, hits him down inside the 5-yard line, puts the Steelers in prime position to score, and he gets called back because Broderick Jones held on the play, and he also got a call for another holding play, which got him benched for the game. So listen, guys like him are going to have to step up. You're going to have to. There's been a real disconnect between the center and between Justin Fields. Even going back to the preseason, that's been. I mean, you could argue that's what cost us the Colts game. Is a bad snap. Justin Fields wasn't ready for it. Killed field position, and the Colts were able to get a last stop there. So, listen, it's weakness on weakness. I mean, Dallas, again, as we mentioned earlier, no DeMarcus Lawrence, no Micah Parsons against a beat up Steelers O-line, particularly on the interior. That's that feels like a little bit of a wash to me. But I'm curious to see who's able to come out on top of that matchup, because I'm not going to act like I'm crazy optimistic about how my Steelers can hold up there.
Yeah, I think that we're both almost at the point of like. It's like show me before I actually believe it with our offenses right now. And you mentioned the penalties for your offensive line. Cowboys are in the same boat. So
no question.
This might be a flag heavy game. Again, the Cowboys got 11 penalties called on them in the Thursday night game. We could possibly see that again. I do want to play Mike Tomlin's press conference talking about some of the Cowboys' weapons, Dak Prescott.
Tomlin's soundbite.
Whatever, we'll see.
Foremost with their offense. Man, I just got a lot of respect for Dak Prescott. I hadn't seen a lot of him. Funny enough, since he's been in the league, I think we've only played against him in particular one time in 2016. But I see a guy who is ultra competitive, has unbelievable arm talent, natural leadership skills. You feel the guys rallying around him in terms of the tape study, the way they battled back in the Baltimore game is an example of that. He's got a real steady demeanor, man. He utilizes his quarterback mobility in a very prudent way. He extends plays. He'll run if given the opportunity. They got some schematics that highlight that. He's got a real rapport, obviously, with his eligibles. His work with CeeDee Lamb is really impressive. They move CeeDee around. You got to defend him on the perimeter. You also got to defend him inside. Really has gained an appreciation for the development of of Ferguson at tight end. I remember watching him up close in Mobile a couple years ago when he came out and was really impressed with his skill set. Had a chance to talk to his grandfather while I was watching practice, the great Barry Alvarez, and so I enjoyed that. But, man, his play is impressive, and how he's evolved as a player is really impressive, and Dak's utilization of him within their offense is impressive. But they've got a lot of eligibles to manage, man. You focus or get hyper-focused on those two too much. A guy like Brandon Cooks can ruin your day, and so we better play a total game in terms of minimizing those guys.
Put that back down. High praises from Mike Tomlin about Dak Prescott. I think that if the Joneses didn't re-sign Dak, I honestly think that Dak probably would have been Pittsburgh's starting quarterback in 2025, which I'm interested to hear your take on that. I know you're a Dak fan, so
Yeah.
I just hearing that stuff and bringing up these weapons, it would make it seem like the Cowboys have scored quite a few points this season, but realistically, we haven't. Despite all those weapons, despite having Jake Ferguson as one of the top 10 tight ends, in my opinion, in the league, CeeDee Lamb, a top 3 wide receiver in the league, Brandon Cooks hasn't been the same, but a pretty good number 2. And Dak Prescott, I think, at least top 8, in my opinion. Some people, want to argue that. So talk about Mike Tomlin and just what you think it would have been like if he was the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are you sad? Where does that go with you, Bryson?
Thanks for ruining my evening, EJ. I think I'm just going to sign off the show. I think I'm done for the night. Thank you very. No, listen, Mike Tomlin remains, first of all, the best soundbite in the league. I mean, the guy is just a master behind the mic. He's great with the media. But yeah, listen, it's going to Dak Prescott. Like you did mention, I am a huge Dak Prescott fan. I have been since his days at Mississippi State. I'm a Tennessee fan, so I did get to see him a lot, obviously watching him in the SEC with his arm, with his legs, of course. I have the utmost respect for him in terms of his leadership. His intangibles are A+++. I mean, he's as good as they come. And listen, for a while there, yeah, I mean, I was openly campaigning on my show for Dak to not re-sign in Dallas and for the Steelers to go get him. I think that would have been a great fit with him and Tomlin, with, again, Arthur Smith we bring up earlier, and some of the weapons and some of the young guys in Pittsburgh. I think they've been a great fit for him, but listen, my heart got broken on September 8th at around 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. But listen, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But listen, I think Dak's a special player. I think he's smart with the football. He's a great decision maker. 2022, people got this idea like he's this turnover machine. That's actually the guy in Philadelphia, if we're gonna be honest, but that's another conversation for another day. But accurate with the football, good deep ball. He's one of the most efficient deep ball throwers in the National Football League. And he's been the rock of that offense since he stepped in. Like, folks forget that, people talk about, he inherited Zeke and that O-line. Well, first of all, the Cowboys in 2015, quick history lesson, they had arguably the best O-line then, and Darren McFadden was top 5 in the NFL in rushing, and they won 4 games because Tony Romo went down. So it's not like he inherited a situation that wasn't bad. I mean, not trying to make it out like it was that, but other guys couldn't make it work outside of Tony. So I think he's a special player. I think that organization is in dire straits without him. And yeah, definitely would have loved to see him as a Pittsburgh Steeler. I'm not gonna lie to you, but yeah, definitely a lot of respect for Dak. And Tomlin obviously voiced that.
Absolutely. My guy, Jimmy from the Star We Are, TJ can pick on Guyton a little bit. Their linebackers are wavy enough to limit. I think that's supposed to say Vaughn and Dowdle. Has to be Dak to CD's show again, and Tomlin knows that. Our only shot is winning 12-9 or 13-10. Yeah, low scoring affair is what I'm kind of feeling as well.
Sure.
Jeff Hollis says, put Overshown on Fields and spy him. I completely agree. I think you have to almost utilize a quarterback spy, especially against this team that wants to run the ball so heavily. And it's kind of like, I'm a big fan of George Pickens. I almost hate seeing him in that offense that's so run heavy, because I feel like he could be a really, really good receiver if he was in the right offense, you know what I mean? And he still is, but just the volume isn't there for him. So a little bit sad with that, but I think that, yeah, this is a grinded out type of a game. I think that I'm probably ready to make score predictions here. I think I'm going to go Cowboys. I just feel like they're at the crossroads of their season. They know that they have the Lions and the Niners these next 2 games. They've got to figure some stuff out, but I want to hear your score predictions first. And if you have a hot take or a bold take, go ahead and throw that in there.
So first of all, I think obviously Trayvon Diggs and George Pickens is going to be something to watch. Again, like you did mention Steelers being number one in the NFL in terms of rushing attempts. He hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities, but when he's gotten his opportunities, say for a really critical fumble down the red zone on Sunday against the Colts, the kid is, I remember watching him. I saw him in person play at Georgia. His catch radius, it reminds me so much of DeAndre Hopkins. Just throw the ball anywhere. Malik Neighbors is a little bit like this for the Giants. Just throw the ball anywhere in his direction and he can make a play on the football that just blows your mind. So yeah, listen, he's a special player. I think this is a Pat Freiermuth game, to be honest with you. Obviously tight end for the Steelers, working over the middle of the field, especially if you're going to talk about a guy like an overshown spying on Justin Fields, maybe give Freiermuth some opportunities. I'm going to go Dallas. I'm going to go Pittsburgh 23-17 in this spot. I think it's a little bit more high scoring than folks may anticipate. I don't know what the over-under for this game is. I don't know if it's like 42, 43, something like that. But whatever the case may be, I'm going to go Pittsburgh 23-17 over the Cowboys. But listen, I do have some concerns relative to potential turnovers. Again, Pittsburgh trying to win the field position battle, I think is going to be critical. But I think Dak will make some plays with CeeDee Lamb, but I just don't think the defense is going to be good enough to stop the Steelers' run game, despite the injuries that we both talked about on the show.
Any bold takes?
Bold takes.
I'll
3
let you
sacks
think
for
of it
T.J.
if you
Watt.
need. Okay, 3. Dang.
Yeah,
let's hope that doesn't happen.
I think that's a mismatch with him and Guyton. I really do.
Oh, it's absolutely.
Obviously it's a mismatch, but I think we're talking about a spot where TJ's gotten his opportunities. He was unbelievable in the Atlanta game. Very quiet against Indianapolis. Joe Flacco, a lot of quick passes, good game plan by Shane Steichen for the Colts. TJ Watt's going to get a lot of action. Dallas takes a really long time to develop their plays. I think number 90 could have a really big night in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely, I think that they have to put help on on that side with Guyton, and Terrence Steele also is not. Outside of the realm of he doesn't need help. Like that guy needs some help too as well. You guys got a plethora of pass rushers, and like you said, Herbig might be in there as well. So we'll see. For me, I'm actually going to go 19-17 Cowboys.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to be like a mid-tier, like not a whole lot of scoring, but at the very end, I feel like we're going to get a little bit of scoring. I think that you could very well only see like 1 touchdown from the Cowboys and a lot of field goals. So probably 4 field goals for Brandon Aubrey and 1 touchdown for the Cowboys. We'll see. Kind of like that score, 19-17. Bold prediction, we're going to get a strip fumble on Justin Fields. It's going to put the offense in a good place on the field to go and get some points. Bryson, I appreciate you coming on. If you are a sports fan in general, check out the GRYD Network, but in specifically, check out Bryson's show, Carving It Up Podcast. He talks all sorts of sports, basketball, football. I don't know if he talks soccer, but regardless, baseball, all that stuff.
Talk more soccer. I should.
Anyways, it's going to be a fun game, and if you have not already, go follow the GRYD Network. Go follow Bryson on Twitter, on X, if you call it that. Follow his podcast on YouTube. That's Carving It Up Podcast, if I got that right, or just Carving It Up Pod.
Yeah, no, Carving It Up with Bryson Carver. Yeah, it's
Okay.
Yeah, three times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Like you said, talk about all sports. I mean, listen, we are entering, to me, bar none, the best month of the sports calendar. You got NFL and college, mid-season. You got baseball playoffs, NBA starting back up. I mean, this is content creating heaven for guys like you and me. So, but I appreciate you having me on, EJ. I think you do a fantastic job with this podcast. You build a really big audience, and listen, you put a lot of work in. You're being rewarded for it. I think you'll continue to be. So, all the best. And I appreciate you having me on tonight, my man.
Appreciate you, man. Anyways, we'll be back next Tuesday with another show. Hopefully, we're coming off of another dub, and that's going to mark two straight. 3-2 sounds really good. But, only time will tell. We'll see. I think it's a Sunday nighter game,
yes,
if I'm right. So, should be a fun time. Hopefully, we can also see the Commanders. Is the Giants on bye? I don't think the Giants are, but hopefully those 2 teams lose as well. I know the Eagles are on bye, so we will see. With that being said, thank you for tuning into the show. We'll catch you next week. Peace.
Yeah. Forget what you got, none of it matters until you don't work from the top. I'm talking non-stop squad. They've been down with me for years, and none of them match up a squad. Squad, 5, out of the gutter, don't stutter, I'm taking my shots. Block.